Hello everybody, how are you guys doing? This is Rob of Rule2R Review, and welcome back. So, obviously what I do here is really not much in the way of reviews and video game reviews. However, that is what we're going to be doing today. This is kind of my short, quick mini version of a review, and what we are going to be reviewing today is Raging Justice on the Nintendo Switch. A really interesting throwback old school kind of beat 'em up platformer game. And there's a lot of really cool things going on here. Very interesting title. And, you know, I mean, hey, like I said, I don't normally really do reviews on Rule2R Review, but I was contacted by the folks over at Team 17 and offered the chance to review it. They gave me a review copy, and so I've been playing it for a few days now. I've spent a lot of time with the game, and so we're just going to jump into kind of my thoughts. So like I said, Raging Justice is a really interesting throwback, kind of side-scrolling beat-em-up game that is very much evoking the likes of Streets of Rage on the Sega Genesis and Final Fight on the Super Nintendo, which are definitely games and genres of games I absolutely love, and I loved them growing up. Myself, my oldest brother, and my younger brother spent a lot of time on the Streets of Rage games on the Sega Genesis back in the day, and we had so much fun with them, and that is definitely what Raging Justice is trying to do. Overall, I'm going to say that, you know what, I like the game. I think that it's a good, fun time. It definitely feels like what those old arcadey beat-em-up games felt like back in the day, and that was definitely a genre that not only on the home consoles was big, but was also big in the arcades. A lot of us think of games like the X-Men arcade game and the Simpsons game, and obviously the awesome old school Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles games. Now, at the end of the day, I will also admit that while I'm enjoying Raging Justice, and it is a good game for what it's trying to do, it is not perfect, and there are frustrating elements to it. As far as the good, I think the main thing that I want to discuss is the visual style, the graphics. Apparently this was a little bit controversial for some people when this game was first debuted, but I gotta tell you, spending some time with the game, I actually really like the visual style. I guess I could see why maybe some people don't like it or find it very appealing. They are kind of weird looking character models. They all have very strange proportions that for some reason doesn't add up. And it's this weird, awkward cross between like a realistic art style and also like an over-the-top cartoony art style. Almost like weird caricatures of actual human beings. And that's true for both the three main characters you can pick from, as well as all of the enemy characters. And obviously you can see a lot of that here. I just gotta say, you know what? To me, it just works. Even with their weird, goofy animations and their strange look, I think it's just very clean. It's very, like, purposeful. You can tell that they very much knew exactly what they wanted this game to look and feel like visually. And I ultimately think that it just comes together pretty well. And also, while I am going to critique some of the gameplay in a moment here, there is still a lot of good to the gameplay. It very much is trying to feel like those old school arcade beat-em-ups, which I know I've referenced a couple of times, but it's important to do so because it really gets across what this game feels like. And even with the stiff animations and stuff that the characters have, I think that that also is very purposeful because it does feel just like a Streets of Rage game. I think of all the different arcade and Final Fight kind of games you can compare this to of that era, for me, this definitely feels the most like Streets of Rage. And not just because it looks like it, because you're like good guys and good cops dealing out justice to all these bad crooks and criminals and hooligans and thugs on the streets, but also just literally in the way it plays and feels. You can use the D-pad, you can use the analog stick, you've got a main punch attack, you've got a main kick attack, you can also have a grab and a throw, and then there's also this one kind of super spinning power move that every single one of the three main characters has. And I mean, you're dishing out combos, you're just spamming that punch button, or you're spamming that kick button, and you're just getting a bunch of kicks and punches in, and there's a lot of different weapons to pick up, also very much like the Streets of Rage games. And it's just a lot of fun to just run through these levels. You're running back and forth, and you're just fighting waves of enemies, and you're just beating them up with combos, and you're picking up money, and you're getting different scores and all this stuff. And you know what? I mean, for the simple straightforwardness of it all, it's a lot of fun. Now, there are two main modes to the game. There's the basic story mode, where it's kind of just a bunch of levels and missions and areas that you just go from level to level, and you beat up a bunch of bad guys on the way to just fighting a final boss at the end. Pretty standard stuff. The other mode is called the Brawl mode, and it's essentially just waves of enemies, you know, the standard kind of firefight thing that you'd see in a lot of other games, where it's round 1, round 2, round 3, and they just throw more and more enemies at you, and the enemies get stronger and more powerful. And it's a fine, simple distraction from the main mode, I guess, but it really doesn't change up a whole lot of the game. It would have been nice if there was some other way to kind of play some of this interesting gameplay that the game has, but at the end of the day, that's what you have, and that's really what makes it feel the most like an old-school 16-bit kind of beat-em-up game. Now, like I said, the game is not entirely perfect, and on the gameplay front, I have a few minor to major qualms with how this game plays. Like I said, yes, the gameplay is fun, it does work, and I have a good enough of a time with it, absolutely, but it's so imperfect, and there's a lot of jankiness kind of to how the game feels and runs, and what it's like to actually fight waves of enemies in this game. And I can see it being something that maybe some of the old school gamers who grew up on games like this might be able to deal with, kind of like myself. But I think for maybe either younger gamers or gamers who just haven't experienced games like this, they might find a lot of problems here. So I have three main problems when it comes to the combat and the gameplay of this game. The first is that all three of the main characters you play, who all have different looks and feels, which is certainly cool, all three of them don't have much reach to their attacks, and that is even true if you're holding a weapon. The hit detection, the collision boxes, what it's like to land a punch or a kick or swipe with a weapon, I gotta tell you, it takes some getting used to. It's not very comfortable, there doesn't seem to be much reach, and the enemies will swarm and attack you and just start beating your face down, and you're sitting here throwing punches and kicks like in the heat of battle, and so many of them won't land because they might be slightly above or below your character's hit detection, or they might just be a step too far back and it looks like you should be making contact but you're not, and then they'll throw a huge awkward kick and just knock you down on your face. And that becomes pretty frustrating. That is very, very common throughout the whole experience, and so it does make it hard for you to feel like you can actually get good at this game. It is a game that I think you can actually build on your own skill. It's not so much like the game holds you back, and that is a plus to the game. If you get good at this game's combat and working around the limitations of the reach, you definitely can get better and better and improve your score. And that's the purpose of the leaderboards that this game has. And it is pretty cool that it gives you leaderboards to compare your scores to. There's a lot of like side missions and goals and stuff you have to complete throughout each level, such as arresting certain characters and beating things within certain time limits. And that is a lot of fun. But that lack of reach for your combat really can get in the way. Another aspect that definitely drives me crazy when playing this game is that your combos really aren't that efficient. For a game that is so simple in its control and doesn't give you a whole lot of options as far as attack and offense, it is remarkably frustrating that every time I'm fighting an enemy and I'm just spamming that X button or that Y button and I'm throwing punches or kicks, your combos will never have a chance to finish. There's something with how they designed the timing of the combos and when you're landing your hits and how your enemies can break your combo and throw an attack at you. It's almost impossible to complete a punching or a kicking combo without your enemy just randomly throwing in their own punch or kick in the middle of your combo and stopping you completely. So there's no real way to feel like you have the full opportunity to use your entire arsenal and just complete a combo on an enemy. If you're just throwing punches on one enemy, you're gonna have to stop your combo and think ahead, because at some point they're just going to stop you for no reason, and then you're gonna get knocked down and lose life. And the game definitely is challenging, which is also something to its credit, but when that happens so often, it just starts to get frustrating. It's like, why do I have combos if I can't complete them? If it's just me and one enemy, and I got the drop on them, and I'm kicking, and my combos are going, before it even has a chance to finish, they'll just randomly throw a punch. And it's not like, oh, that's how you're supposed to get good at the game. It's like the game was designed to frustratingly not allow you to complete these combos. And so it kind of makes it pointless for you to get the jump on an enemy or maneuver around them and try to surprise them and get the first attack in, when they're just going to be able to stop you because that's what they're programmed to do. The last problem I have with the gameplay is also a pretty huge complaint, and it's the fact that there is literally no defense you have in this game. At least as far as I could tell, man. You got your punch, you got your kick, you have your throw, you have your kind of super spin attack sort of move, and you have this roll or this dash that you do by double tapping left or right, which A, will get you out of enemy fire, and B, will knock enemies down and do a little bit of damage, which is nice. But as far as like a block or an evade, there's nothing like that in this entire game. And again, a game based on throwing a lot of enemies at you at one time, where you are just one person on the screen, and here comes 10 other bad guys coming at you with knives and bats and big, huge, fat guys that can just roll over you with bull charges and stuff, and you don't have anything to try to block. The most you have for an evade is a double tap up or down, which is a nice attempt, but it's not efficient and it's not smoothly executed. Even when you're spamming that up or down, it just won't matter because enemies will be stopping you from achieving that. And, you know, you could argue that maybe I'm just not the best at the game, and sure, there might be some truth to that. I'm not sitting here telling you I'm the greatest gamer on earth or anything. That's not me. But it certainly would be nice and add a lot of nuance to the gameplay if you could block or do some sort of immediate evade in the middle of combat and in the middle of action. When you're trying to throw your punches and kicks and everyone's stopping your combos and you're trying to roll away, but you can't because they're hitting you, and you just wish you had a darned block button that you could use for a split second and practice the timing on, or anything to that effect, it would add so much more to the fun and the ability of this game. But you don't have anything like that. The best thing I could figure out was to get 1 or 2, maybe even 2 or 3 hits of your combo in, and then spam that super spin kick attack, and that's the best thing you've got. And so it doesn't really feel like it's offering you enough options, and it feels like you're just kind of breaking the game's pattern of gameplay for the sake of not getting your own butt kicked in a way that would feel kind of cheap or unearned. And so I find a huge problem with that. These are some of the gameplay problems that to me hold this back from being a truly great game. So at the end of the day, is Raging Justice a bad game? No, definitely not. It is not a bad game. Is it a really good or a great game? No, it's not really that either. I think it's just one of those tried and true examples of an okay game. It's pretty average, maybe even slightly above average. As an old school gamer who grew up in that 16-bit and 8-bit and arcade era, I definitely have a nostalgic affinity for this kind of experience. I think that what they did with this game is commendable. It is certainly a fun game. There are those huge problems with the gameplay that I talked about, but at the end of the day, it's a simple game that's trying to accomplish really not a whole lot. It's not trying to accomplish anything fancier than just, here's your character, run through levels, press your punches and your kicks, and beat up bad guys and try to get high scores. That's really all it's trying to do. And in that respect, it definitely mostly succeeds, man. It's a good time. I like the graphics and the visual style. I would have liked a little bit more modes as far as how you can play through the game. But again, for only $13 to $15 on the eShop, it's not a very expensive experience. And that does definitely help here when considering if it's a good, bad, or a great game. And to me, it's just a good game. It's a slightly above average game. And so I'm not really someone who's a professional as far as giving scores for games. I'm just one gamer on the internet, and I'll just tell you my opinion. If I was going to score this game, I would give it a nice, simple, easy 7 out of 10. This is a 7. That's what this game is to me. It's fun. For 15 bucks, you really can't go wrong, but if you're expecting something deep and nuanced and really excellent, that is not this game. It's really just a good game. So there you go. That's my review of Raging Justice on the Nintendo Switch. This game did release on a variety of platforms, but of course I played the Nintendo Switch version. And you know, hey, it's another one of those games where whether you love it, you hate it, you find it to be okay like I did, you do have that added benefit on the Nintendo Switch of having it portable. And it is fun to play portable. And I think the visuals pop even more when it's actually in your hand. It's just part of the coolness of the Nintendo Switch and the quality of that screen and how much and what kind of quality graphics we can get out of the Nintendo Switch. And so that certainly helps as well. But now you know my feelings. It's one of those games that I kind of wish there was a little bit more to it. I would have loved to say that this is an 8 or an 8.5 or even getting close to a 9 out of 10 kind of experience. And it's not that. It's a fun game that's a nice distraction. The gameplay is a little bit flawed, but does have a lot of fun to it. So it's far from a waste of time. And at 15 bucks, it's definitely not overpriced. And I could easily say, for gamers who like or are looking for this kind of experience, it's definitely worth the 15 bucks. That much I think is for sure. Not a great game, but it's fine. So anyway, this was a lot of fun. Like I said, I don't really do a lot of reviews. If you guys enjoyed this and maybe want me to do more reviews, you can let me know. I'm a really busy guy. I only do YouTube on the side, so I don't have the time to play and complete games within time. And I just don't have enough time to play every sort of random game that just releases for any console. But it was a lot of fun to play this game and do a review, so that's it. Let me know what you guys think. Are you going to pick up Raging Justice? If you do pick up and play it, do you like it? Do you dislike it? Do you agree with my review? Do you disagree with my review? Let me know what you think. All opinions, of course, are welcome here, and that is it for me. Thanks, of course, as always, for tuning in, guys. This is Ro2R Review, and I'll catch you next time on another video.